Michael Salas, he comes out with all of the best pictures that I've got in my presentation. And wait a minute. And then Bob takes 5 more of them for his. So really, this is over. I mean, wow. Okay. Going way back, 1935, okay? I'm in a classroom. I didn't get along with a teacher. And I hear this roar. And it's soft, but it's getting louder. And I'm up in the front desk because I'm always not doing the right thing. And so this roar gets really loud. I jump up, I turn around, I run out of the school room, I go down the hallway, and I go outside. Yes, the USS Macon is flying in from over the ocean to Hollywood. And it's just really interesting because for whatever reason, even 3 or 4 years before grade school, I was interested in spaceships. I was into it. So now, here comes a massive spaceship right into Hollywood over us. Now, Michael talked about it a little bit, but I had a better opportunity because we had Santa Ana winds sometimes in Hollywood. And they're usually dry, but they're sometimes very strong. So when this dirigible came in, there were 2 fighter aircraft flying with it. And all 3 of them were operating quite slow. They weren't going through real fast. And this, looking this thing, actually almost every student came out, all the teachers came out, so we're all watching this. And this situation where there's a structure, a great big structure that comes down from the center of this. And one of the 2 bi-wing airplanes flew over like this. He comes in and he goes underneath the carrier and he hooks onto this rod. It's a big structure rod. And the rod takes him back up inside, and I didn't know it at the time, but then the rod goes forward, and there's a great big hangar tech inside of this dirigible. So the second guy flies around. He had more trouble with the wind because he couldn't catch this rod. But he caught it, they picked him up and put him in and parked him in this great big hangar. So now most of you know with aircraft carriers, they have the same type of thing. But here now we have a spaceship. So this was really cool for me, okay? I was not just interested in spaceships, I was interested in the Navy. And it's important to sort of pick up that kids at that time have different kinds of things that they get into. Instead of playing ball after school, I would go to the Hollywood Library and I'd look up all this stuff on Navy ships. And of course, I would collect all kinds of newspapers and articles about what the photographs were of the ships. So aircraft carriers obviously were the most important to me. So there was a organization that the Navy had where the public could go on board the ships back then. They have these great big powered lifeboats that drive you out to the harbor where the ships are anchored. And no cameras, but I've got a little tablet thing here that I write on, okay? And I'm very interested in different secret things that are on the ships that I can put on my models. Bob thought I was going to talk about UFOs here. I like to talk about my ship. I never get a chance to talk about my ship, okay? Louder. Louder. Okay. Louder. Okay, so my dad takes us from Hollywood down to Long Beach Harbor. Is that coming through good? I hope. And we ride out in these big launches, and we come up to the side of the aircraft carrier, and that was this model right here that you're looking at. But the model wasn't finished. I was still building it. And so you go up this outside ladder, and you go in a door on the side of the hull. And actually, now you're in a massive hangar that's 10 times the size of the one that was in the big dirigible. You go up more stairs. Now you're on the flight deck, okay? I know that they have radar. There's two types of radar. One is round, and the other is rectangular. This was a great big rectangular one way up on the top of a mast. So I look around to find where the shadow is, okay? So I find the shadow, and I walk the length of it across, back the length again and mark the back, and then I write this down. Now, a lot of airplanes on the deck. I walk up to the bow on the flight deck, and the Navy had come up with another secret thing for operations. It was a steam catapults. Now, when the Navy goes out to operate in a training mission, they fill up the flight deck completely with airplanes. So there's no flight deck to take off with. So they came up with these steam catapults, and I go up to the bow. There's two of them. I find out what the distance is back from the end of the bow. I write that down. I write down the lengths of these and put the notes down here. Then I go all the way to the back of the flight deck.
Bill, they can't hear you, so use this one. Can you hold that?
Okay, is that better? Worse or better? Better, okay. All right, now, I go to the stern of the flight deck. There are cables running across the back. And the Navy, when airplanes are coming in, flying into land, they pull a lever, the pilot pulls a lever, and a great big rod comes out of the back of the fuselage with a hook on it, okay? These cables run across the back of the flight deck, and you catch one of those cables, and it stops you, so you don't go crashing into all the other airplanes. Okay. So I've gotten this information, and on the drive back to Hollywood, I would make perspective sketches of these three secret things. And I would, okay, all right, sorry. I would make 3-view drawings of the ship. I already had that. I would scale the radars. I'd scale these arresting cables. I'd put on the model. Now, photographs that I have of both the Lexington and the Saratoga class carriers. They show two large turrets with big guns, two of them forward of the bridge and two of them after the bridge. When we came up on the deck, they were gone. Now, the Navy at that time was concerned about a buildup in Japan. So what they did, because there was no harbor in San Diego, they built an enormous breakwater all the way across San Pedro and Long Beach. So now the Pacific Fleet is tied up there when they're not in their maneuvers. They went even further. They went back and they had most of the Atlantic fleet leave their ports, go through the Panama up to the Long Beach harbor. So now we have 60, 70 ships, all with this new information on it, new anti-aircraft guns. Those turrets that were on that carrier are gone. They put in 20 millimeter and 40 millimeter anti-aircraft and 5-inch cannons all over the ship. So now I want to make my model so it's up to date, right? So I fix it with all of those. Okay. Okay. This one. Now I got one here. Hold on.
There we go.
Okay. I need to pull this one up.
Which one do you want?
That one.
Okay.
That's what we need. Okay. All right. So now people see a lot of articles about these ship models. I end up demonstrating the models to Commander Pacific Fleet. And he sees these secret models on these ships because I put them on the cruisers, I put them on destroyers, they're all over the place. First thing he does, he confiscates the entire collection. Okay? For his use. The second thing he does, he has all of the radars removed in case the public would see these. So now I got to rebuild them after the war's over. Okay, I need the next one.
Battle of LA.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not working.
This one's not working the way it should. Okay,
This computer is giving problems.
yeah.
There we go.
Okay. A little while later, this situation where they call the Battle of Los Angeles. Everybody has seen it with the big telescope or the big lights shining on it. Okay, and what I want to do is I want to tell a different story because that's not what it was. The night before that event took place, we had just moved into a real large home in Long Beach, only 4 blocks from the beach. It had been split up into 4 apartments, 2 above, 2 below. We had the upper apartment. Now the floor of the lower one had these 19-foot ceilings, okay? And so that meant our second floor was like a 3rd floor, way up. All right, this house had an enormous deck that ran all the way across the back. About 7 that evening, my brother and I were reading the newspaper in the living room. My dad came running into the living room and said, "Get out here on the deck, you gotta see this." Okay, it was a spot of light about there, not up here, about that angle, like almost just above horizon. We came out, we watched this for about 4 minutes. Then a very tiny light came out of it, down about 30 degrees. Now we can't see the ocean from the house, but we assumed that that actually was looking for something in the ocean. We watched this little beam for a while, and it did something we were very surprised. It went bang, just like that. It lit up the back of this house like there's no way you can realize it. Even the overhang that hangs down was like brilliant sunlight all across the back of the house, all of the trees, all of the roofs. And it lasted about 4 seconds, went out. Now, this was kind of strange because we got sort of bored and went to bed early. Now then, later on, next morning, we wake up with something that I don't think anybody in this room has ever heard unless you were there when the anti-aircraft guns started firing all over Long Beach, Los Angeles. It was unbelievable. We get dressed, we go downstairs, we go outside, and we talk to all these different people that are trying to figure out what's going on. Now, what we were seeing was actually a small aircraft, not flying like this, coming from the ocean over us, okay? They were rectangular. They were sort of triangular. Some were sort of square, but they were peculiar looking. We can't see the details, so they were small airplanes flying very slow. In about 30 minutes watching this, a massive, tremendously bright oval thing came in from the ocean over us, and it parked. It stopped. All the rest of the small ones were flying on this side of it, on that side of it. So yes, all of the searchlights, which were following the small planes, they come and go over to this great big thing. They follow this. And it is unreal in that nobody got scared. Nobody ran in the house, and they're firing, and you can see the explosions on the bottom of this great big round thing, okay? And it didn't keep going with the rest of them. It stopped. So some of the searchlights did start tracking the other small planes. What's happening here is that on the other side of the planet, the Germans were bombing England. Everybody's looking to get underneath the ground to not get hit. We didn't have any heart attacks. Nobody got scared. So what this turns out to be is something pretty astounding. Not just a little photograph of one light over LA. There were hundreds of these vehicles that flew over very slow. There was a very peculiar thing that happened. Only two ways this could have worked. One, that yes, a very large number of vehicles flew in from over the ocean, all of them going east towards Mount Wilson Mountains. They turned this way or they turned that way. If they turned this way, they went down south below San Diego. Turned again, went back out over the ocean. Made another 180 and turned around and came in. Okay. Got him. They made another 180 and they went out over. Or there really could have been that night 1,000 aircraft from outer space came over Southern California, and 500,000 people watched it all night. Wow.
Next slide.
Next one.
I got it.
Okay. Sure. Yeah, hit that. So back now to the problem with the actual problem. That's what I want. I don't want that. All right. This then became a major problem in that a Navy operative, spy had gotten into Germany, and he ran into things that were totally unreal. I mean by that, there were hundreds and hundreds of vehicles in laboratories, in construction, being built in factories, in mountain factories, under the ground, slave labor, that had no wings. They didn't have wings, they didn't have a tail, okay? The weapons that they found were 7 different sizes and classes of weapons that nobody had ever seen before. They were laser weapons, okay? So these operatives this single fellow came back, and instead of going directly to his boss, he went to Washington. He went directly to the Secretary of the Navy, Forrestal. Now, Forrestal then had the problem of how do we handle this? So he decided that they would take every top naval operative, spy, and get them not only in Germany, but in all of the surrounding controlled countries, because this was unbelievable. Okay, what are we really talking about here? This is a situation where the Draco Reptilians made an agreement with Hitler, the Third Reich, and the SS. Very interesting what the agreements were. The agreements were they would, well, first of all, they could get rid of the people that Germany didn't like. All of the people that Germany didn't like, take them out, okay? Now, then they would organize and structure major German space Navy battle groups using these vehicles all out through the galaxy in conjunction with the Draco Reptilian Space Navy, and do the same thing to all those other planets out there in the galaxy. Now, this isn't the first country that they came to. They've been doing this for 7,000 years, much longer than that. So we're nothing new to the Dracos. But getting every man, woman, and child on this planet to work in underground, in mountain production facilities for the Draco Reptilians and the now German Space Navy. This is a pretty bad situation. So we're having to get, how do we do this? Okay? This is hard to say. I'm sorry, this is hard to say, because you're not going to like it. Who's going to do this? So the Secretary of Navy gets tapped on the shoulder, okay? He was told that they would have to select a different kind of a person than any Navy officer who had ever been through Annapolis. No Navy officers could head up this massive, most important mission that the Navy has ever had in the 240 years history of the Navy. Wow. A fellow was selected that's not even an American. He's an Australian. Came over here with his family. Went to school here. Got into the second year of high school, quit, and went into the Navy. Wow. Worked his way up. He's now a full commander. All right, what happens next? This situation then takes a different twist. This means that every officer in the United States Navy throughout its history has been given misinformation in the books that they get taught. What's that all about? All right. So we have Annapolis. We've been using Annapolis for 200 years to train Navy officers, right? They read books that the Draco Reptilians, extraterrestrials, wrote the books. So now, every PhD on this planet, science, history, medicine, doesn't make any difference, has been given books which were lying about the truth of that field by the Draco Reptilians. Now this is pretty staggering, what we're saying here, okay? This is no joke. So, the Secretary of the Navy selects Admiral Rico Botta, who was just a commander. First thing he did was made him a captain. He was a captain for 2.5 weeks. He made him a 1-star admiral. You won't believe what he did, the first thing he did in this subject. He went to the 6 most important aircraft companies in California: Douglas, Lockheed, Northrop, and even Caltech and Scripps Medical. Wow, what's that all about? Okay. This ends up that a massive organization has been underway on your planet for the last 6,000 years, and the two gentlemen that talked a little bit before me, okay, they got into some of this, but I'm telling you, the fact that we are taught incorrect information still in our books, in all of the schools. This is being done so that you will not get to the point of knowing who they are and how they're controlling you. This is unreal. I lost my handle. Yeah.
The next slide.
Yeah, turn it. Yeah, go to the next one.
There she is.
Okay, I wish I had a better control. All right, now, and once again, today you just saw this girl, okay? So what do I have to do with her? Come on. All right, there's one little part that I would like to say, that she was a really nice young lady. She got tapped on the shoulder like the Secretary of the Navy Forrestal, and this fella told her that he wants her to get all of her friends, get all of her relatives, and then a little bit many people to help to design and build a spaceboat transport, put everybody on board, leave the planet, and go out into the utopian planets that are out there and live out there. That's the first thing she did. So it's not some of these other things you've heard about. This then gets to a problem in my particular engineering. We're going to talk about that in a minute. I want to say how these operatives operated in the Naval Air Station, San Diego, for Admiral Rico Botta. The Admiral's aide taps me on the shoulder at night, always after midnight, okay? The only word he says, he's here. The Admiral then escorts me over to the command building, and actually, you folks that have been to San Diego and you look over to North Island where the carriers are, even if there's a carrier there, you can see this building up above the carrier. It's real high, pointed building. It has a very small office, almost to the top. So, after midnight, Admiral Rico Botta sits here. I sit here. One of the three other bosses that I have, all three captains, is sitting here. The typist is sitting here, and the operative's right there. The operative desperately tries to convince us of totally unreal things that are taking place all over Germany. Now, this gets worse, okay? Because the Germans don't get just a manual of how to build a UFO. They get brand spanking, brand new 15 classes of Draco Navy spaceships. This is what's getting put in production in these underground factories, slave labor. Wow. Okay, so what happens here is that the organization that would normally handle all of this, they don't even know what's happening. So your Navy then has these operatives back in Germany, and they are bringing this information to Admiral Rico Botta in his office after midnight 4 and 5 times a week. They come back. They don't believe what they're presenting. They don't believe it. Obviously, the Admiral says, he would say to the operative, "Young man, you don't make sense. I don't understand what you're saying." And the operative would again go back and try to explain it, saying he doesn't understand it either. But this is what they're doing. So we are in a situation where unbelievable information is coming in from out in the galaxy about at least one type of extraterrestrial people. We now know there's many more than that. But these guys are making this planet a slave planet for them. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Can you bring that one up here? Thank you. Okay. So I have 8 young ladies, 3 PhDs, and 3 girls in a photo lab. We put together what the Navy call packages. It's a contract, a different kind of a contract. Any of you working for aerospace know what competitive bid contracts are. This is not that, okay? This is a directive contract for Douglas, for Lockheed, for Northrop, for North American, for Caltech, okay? What we do then is I have a double lock attaché case. I put the package in that in the morning. They drive me out to the Admiral's airplane. He has 2 of them, a high wing single engine, and then he has a Lockheed Electra. The Electra is for Eastern flights. The single engine job is for Western flights. All right. So the admiral's pilot and I get in his plane. He flies it. I'm sitting next to him. We fly to, say, Burbank, Lockheed, to deliver this package to the top people in Lockheed. Now, if you were the ones in Lockheed, and you, oh, I forgot to tell you, 4 weeks, 5 weeks before I flew the first time to any of them, Rico Botta, Admiral Rico Botta, flew to Douglas. He flew to Northrop, flew to Lockheed, flew to all these people and told them that they were going to receive a package, which is a contract, from the disseminator of advanced aircraft research information. Okay? Remember, when I went in the Navy, I just went to boot camp. When I went over to North Island, where my order said to go, I was a third-class seaman, okay? I am that guy. So I take these pictures, the package, the contract, to all these companies. I explain what the operator has said, what the situation is. Is it communications? Is it propulsion? Is it navigation? Every single thing that's in here is totally real to everybody that we took the package to, that I took the package to. They didn't believe it. But it was interesting, the attitudes of all of these top people. Now, these are all the PhDs, all the top designers, all the top advanced people. Like you take Lockheed. Everybody knows that Lockheed has a skunks work, right? Okay. I gave the package to those guys 4 years before the skunk works even existed, because it came out of the buildup of each one of these other type of unbelievably advanced, total unbelievable information that we collectively contacted every major company in aerospace, in electronics, in research, every single organization in this country. War Minister Pennsylvania, a massive underground facility back in Pennsylvania. Those people were the tops, all top PhDs. Now, again, the interesting reaction of this to them was disbelief, but then they realized that if this is real, that, oh my gosh, this is going to affect everybody. All of us are going to be working on this. So I did have a great many questions that I couldn't answer, okay? And I did bring, well, I actually flew over 1,000 packages, 1,000 contracts in the 4 years that I was in the Navy. And after a while, you get real used to how to do it. Now, if you look at the picture of me in the plane, this was kind of weird. Yes, I watched everything that the pilot did. On the 7th flight, the pilot told me before we took off, he said, "You take it off, Bill. I've seen you watching me," okay? So I got the engine running, and I've checked up. He handled all the radio communication. I didn't do any of that, okay? And I got the chocks pulled out on either side for the gears so I can roll it. And I very slowly started adding power. And we're bouncing along now towards the edge of the runway. Now we're on the runway. and I'm watching the altimeter telling me what height, what speed I'm up to. And when I saw that speed, I just pulled back on the yoke, and we're flying. I fly out over the ocean. I turn and I go north up towards Hollywood. I turn. Now, he handled all the communications. I didn't handle anything. The point I'm getting to is that I actually flew hundreds and hundreds of these almost myself. And every place that we landed, he would stay with the plane. I would go inside to the secret area like advanced design. I would explain the package and the program. Now, interestingly enough, some of the informations that the Navy operatives came back with was wrong, really wrong. So they would call the Admiral and get 2 or 3 of his assistants to be in when he gave his briefing. So we'd figure out then, okay, should we scrap everything or would we try to use some of what was necessary, put a package together, okay? And then this would be supported with additional flights. So you didn't just fly once to all these secret facilities, many of them 4 and 5 and 6 times. More package, more information. Now, I don't know whether you realize what we just said. This information from Germany went all over your country, top secret, okay? We started to learn what was really going on out in the galaxy. This is World War II. All right. I want to put this one over there. Yeah. Put this over here. I need this one to come up. He doesn't know how to run it either. He's talking to it. Wait a minute. I got a big hammer out in the car. Okay, now, so there's a whole bunch more to this, and I hope I can talk to you guys later at different places and really fill you in. All right, the war is over. I've got to get this thing running. All right, so there was a piece of paper that was mailed to the Commander Pacific Fleet when I went in the Navy. Okay, it said 2 things. One, it said I could never go to combat. The second thing it says, I would be released from the Navy the minute hostilities quit. Now, that was written by my dad to the Admiral of the Pacific Fleet. Okay, another little secret. My dad is a 33 level Freemason. They got sort of horsepower, okay? Wow. All right. So, because my dad got in trouble with the upper boys, 33 is up, okay? He can't get a job, my dad. So he just sells stuff, okay? You're not going to believe this either. Our family had moved to Pasadena. So now my dad is selling real silk hosiery to ladies. So now I have to canvass houses and try to sell the young ladies hose. And what have I been doing for the last 8 years? Okay. That went on for 3 or 4 months. Then he lost that job. So then, actually, we have to sell John's Manville rock wool to put in the walls and in the ceiling of houses. That lasted even shorter. My brother did go ahead with him and stayed with my dad. So I quit, and I got a job at Northrop. right in Hawthorne. And Northrop had been involved in this for a long time. Now, I use my models to get in the door, okay? Now, I want to talk about my models a whole lot more, but I'm not going to do it. All right, I use my models to get in the door. It's secret, of course, so I had class. But when the guy was doing his security check on me, he found out a whole bunch of stuff of who Tompkins was. So they took me out of the wind tunnel only 4 weeks after I went to work, and they put me in this great big laboratory. Now, you're not going to believe what they were doing. Now, you know who Northrop is, Jack Northrop. He builds these big flying planes, right? Great big flying planes, all right? They don't have any fuselage, and they don't have any tail. He's known for that. Best there ever. Okay. What he's doing now, he's designing airplanes that operate in the galaxy. Wow. Oh my gosh. So I got to do that, a lot of design work, and then we had to go to Douglas. Okay. So I did work for a short time. Actually, people wanted me. It's kind of crazy, but different aerospace wanted me. I worked at North American. I worked at Lockheed. And when I was at Lockheed, now, I didn't cover this part. I get flashes, okay? What's a flash? I get stuff that comes in my head, okay? Like I just said, remote viewing over here. Yes, it's sort of like remote viewing, but that's a method to visualize what you want and then go there. Your mind goes there, you don't go. No, it's used in intelligence. And so what we do then is I have the flash, but unlike many of here who get flashes, I get like 7 planets out there, then one of the 7, and then one area down on the planet, and then the detail of what's happening there. I do use the proper language, which is to select a target. That's what they all do in remote viewing. But I just look at what I want, and I go there. So I don't have to go through all those steps everybody else does. All right, now you've seen both of these fellows here. We have this picture of Elmer Wheaton, Vice President of Engineering, and now we got Dr. Klimper. And yeah, I work for them too, in this secret think tank that's now in Douglas. What's interesting, I only worked in that tank 4 weeks, and I found one of my packages that I had delivered back in '42 to Douglas. Wow. Found 3 other later. Okay, so now we have all of these top-level people in this secret think tank trying to come up with every type of mission that the U.S. Navy would get involved in space. All right, if you're insisting, okay. I wish I had that myself. So we all know about Marie, but I have a different situation. We did 2 things. I did 2 things in the secret think tank at Douglas for 12 and a half years. One was all this concept designing of these different types of space vehicles after the mission had been designed, created. In other words, I was creating all these different type of missions that the Navy the Space Navy doesn't even exist. The other half of this is where the government formed NASA. And they picked up a lot of people from Germany in paperclip. But remember, we're 7 years before NASA even got created. So we're way ahead of anything that NASA's doing. But we did get a contract for the S4B stage, which is the top controlling stage for the Apollo. Okay, so now this is the Apollo program. You have to hear what Apollo really was supposed to be. Everybody listening? Wow. Okay, you know the first phase. You go up there, you take your pictures, you pick up the rocks, and you come home, right? All right. That's not it. Second stage. We designed in this secret think tank what would be hundreds of 500-man Navy experimental and operating facilities on all of the planets in the solar system or their moon. Okay? Phase 3. Go out into the galaxy to the 12 closest stars, do the same thing with them. Except we found Alpha Centauri, the closest star, actually has 2 stars. So the radiation factor is going to be prohibitive, so we're only going to go to the 11 closest stars. Now, a second part of that third was that we were going to go commercial out in the galaxy and use the Navy to do it. Fourth phase, go out into the full galaxy, plural galaxies. Do both. Okay? United States developing commerce, space commerce, getting with the extraterrestrials, that people that we know out there, and work with them. I got to go to here. All right, he's insisting that we go here. Okay. All right, wait a minute. We know who Maria is. All right. The other one, when we were getting started with the Apollo program, we had some 15 different section chiefs in the engineering for the Apollo program. We were the command and the operating part of that Apollo program. So a couple of weeks before we actually started, 3 guys came in and landed over at Las Vegas, and they were there for almost 3 weeks. And then they came over to Santa Monica, and they landed at Santa Monica. 2 girls and 1 guy. Wow. So, yes, one of the girls was my secretary, Jessica. Anybody that's read the book knows all about Jessica, okay? The other girl was then the section chief secretary for propulsion. So now we got systems and propulsion, the 2 top most difficult engineering section chiefs to get the Apollo to work. So the point I want to make to you is that when all of our top engineers are in a meeting with other groups, and we've been there for 3 or 4 hours and we haven't come up with an answer, this blonde that I now have for a secretary taps me on the shoulder. No, she doesn't do that. She tells me telepathically, Billy, why don't you do so-and-so? That was the answer we needed that would go all the way through the program. So don't give me this stuff that these 3 Nordics, they're under contract to us. Come on. Mine looks like she's 17. Unbelievable. Both the girls, okay? They're brilliant. The other guy only comes when the girls get in trouble. So he's not with us all the time. So now we've got these 2 gorgeous girls that are doing the same thing, one for propulsion and one for the systems. You cannot believe the arguments that get fixed because she steps in and said, hey, Billy, why don't you say so-and-so? And it worked. Okay. All right, now we have to go to the Apollo directors. Obviously, Von Braun is there. And there's this other fellow, Dr. Debus. So what we did, we studied everything about the Apollo missions, not just the one to the moon. We found that we couldn't make the contract that NASA gave to us work. We found it never worked. We found that the other contractors couldn't make it work. So we stepped back and we did a whole new study, totally ignoring everything that NASA had put down, not only to us, but all the other contractors. We studied the whole thing. We studied dozens and dozens of other missions, okay? So one of the things I think it's easy to see, you've all seen the Germans launch control facilities. It's a great big underground concrete thing down 4 stories underneath the ground with a periscope, okay? We can't even, the contract, okay? We can't make the contract. We've gone fully automatic. Most of NASA is still manual. So we're working with microchips, very, very delicate. The first ones weren't really good. They were pretty delicate, so we need to treat them that way. But there wasn't room down inside this launch control that the Germans had. So I came up with this approach, which I think everybody in this room can understand. You know what it's like to be in a theater. You're sitting in seats, you look up at the screen in the back, and you go watch the movie, okay? So what this is we have hundreds of 2-man consoles all the way down where you would have steps. Great big full walls of every single thing that could go wrong in the mission, so that every person in there knows where we are in the mission. They know what's happened. They know what their equipment may or not be part of the problem that comes up, or it could be. And so what I'm trying to say, I had this great big 6-foot model built. I put it on a brand new Douglas DC-7 and flew it down to the Cape. Now I did this by myself, and of course I got fired for it later. So now I have this great big model. So Redstone Arsenal is a very secure, very, very highly classified facility. And so I have to put the model in something to get it out there. Okay. So I rent a truck. The closed trucks weren't available. So I had to rent a truck where you can take the sides off, okay, like this. Put your model on, put the sides back on, but you can see the box. So I'm driving this box all through that area there before you get to the base, and it's trees, and I never drove anything like that before. So the gears are not helpful. And we get to a road, a straight road, and it's surprising, that base they've cut all of the trees down, like 6 to 8 blocks all around this. So when you turn off of a highway onto the road that's going in to where the gate is, they can see you coming. And when you get to sign up, over on the right-hand side, there's dozens and dozens and dozens of big trucks, automobiles, people walking all around trying to get in the office to get some sort of clearance to get on base because of the high security. My secretary told me, well, she said, Billy, I've written you a letter of entrance, but you won't need it, okay? So she told me, I'm driving now, okay? She told me the gate's gonna open, okay? And said, you don't slow down. I told you not to slow. Telepathic, she's telling me this. Don't slow down, the gates are gonna open. The gate opens. I drive right into this secret base. Not one security guy jumped in the car with these automatic rifles and started following me. I went all over the base trying to find Von Braun's tower. I finally find the tower, okay? It's sort of up on a slight hill. So there's a whole lot of steps. Actually, you're supposed to park on either side, everybody, and then you walk up to Von Braun's tower, okay? 4 security guards come out of that building, the front door. They walk all the way down the steps. They're carrying a 4-wheel dolly, okay? So they come down, they sit the dolly right next to the truck. They take the sides off the bed. They take the back side off. They take this one off, okay? They put the model on this dolly. Wow. So now they carry this model up in this great big 8-foot square box, okay? The model is 6-foot square. The doors open into the building. We walk past all these different people that are working in NASA. We go almost a half a block to get to the back part, because the structure in front and the high part's out of the middle. So that door opens too. So the elevator takes us up to Von Braun's office, and that door opens. Okay. These fellas push the dolly in there. Now we got a great big wooden block in an engineering office. Wow. So they take the cover off of this, put it down on the side. They take a blue cloth, put it down on an enormous conference room, the backside of the building. Von Braun's office here, Dr. Debus' office over there. They lay this cloth in the center of the table. They get the model out, which is covered with another blue cloth. They take that model, sit it down right in the middle. Now this is really cool. Because remember, there was no telephone call to Von Braun's office that I was coming. There was no letters coming. Dr. Debus' secretary comes right out of her office and she says, I'm glad you're here, Billy. Did you have a nice flight? Wow, what's that all about? Jessica, okay? She set the whole thing up. Wait a minute, nobody's going to drive through a gate like that. Nobody's going to do it. That gate automatically opened because she said it. She told it to open. Don't give me this that they're not extraterrestrials, okay? All right, so I give the briefing. I give the briefing till the time that I want to show them what the launch control building has to be. Both Debus' secretary and Von Braun's jump up right at the right time and pull the cloth off. And you'd have to see these models because this was cool. These guys built a fantastic model. And later on, if we still have a little time, you can see that inside of that building. It's on the back part of this briefing. Okay, we got to go again. We've missed one. Okay, now back in engineering, Mary and I, my wife, knew all about what's going on with the extraterrestrials. So at that time, some of them were supposed to be green, okay? So we have this big party at the Beverly Hilton Hotel. And so everybody's in costume. And I borrowed the 2 crash helmets for the party. Mary wouldn't wear hers because it was going to screw up her hair. But anyway, yes, we won it, okay? We got the big prize. And everybody, she knew a lot of the people in this top engineering effort on the Apollo program. And so you meet all the guys there, everybody's got different outfits on, and it's nothing but having a ball. Okay, I need that one. There we are. All right, now, what I said before Apollo, remember, for years, we had been designing enormous vehicles, okay? And you can see in the center there, the first one, that's an Apollo. It's hard to realize what the weight of these different vehicles are, but these were for the follow-on missions after we did the first one going to Apollo. So then some of the close planets or their moons, we would still use liquid propellant, liquid oxygen rocket engines. Then we would switch over automatically to, depending on the mission, electromagnetic propulsion or anti-gravitational propulsion. But I'm trying to say this is like 7 years before NASA even exists. It's inside this secret think tank at Douglas. Wow. That's the vertical assembly building, which, yes, I designed that. And the contract told us that we had to check out our S4B stage horizontally in an open hangar. Now, advanced electronics, that's a hard job. And so I said, we're not going to do that either. And what I wanted was a a building that we could control the temperature in the building. And you can't see it on the other side, but that actually has 4 separate bases to build, assemble the various vehicles on. And so what we do then is we have a truck, and it's got a whole bunch of wheels. And after everything is checked out there, not out at the launch area where the contract said, we just drive these out the freeway to 3 different launch periods. And we can, this is a production program, people, massive production program, okay? And so you can't see it on the back side, but the back side has the 2 doors on either one of them, 2. So now you got essentially an air-conditioned environment to do all this exotic equipment that you have to not just go to the moon, but go on out in the galaxy. So now we show one of these being driven out, and you can see the umbilical arm that goes, and when you get the signal to launch, the umbilical arms disconnect automatically and pull to the side. So that structure still is there because you assemble a vehicle on this great big mobile platform. Here we are now, and this is the S4B leaving planet Earth, heading for the first landing on the moon. This one is not showing well, but just to give you a feel of how you would say radical different spacecraft carriers designs really were. And these are hundreds of these. And so these are for deep space missions. We do all the details. Now, the one on your left over there, that big cigar, all right? When we're working with all these PhDs on all the advanced stuff, I'm going to tell you something that is not well known, all right? Many of these people, now you've got all the top people in the United States in this, they saw structurally what's wrong with the planet. Now, I don't want to go to details with that, but yeah, Noah had a flood way back there, but we've had 7 Noah-type floods since that we don't talk about in front of the children. And we have situations where we have volcanoes from Alaska or from the North Pole down to the South Pole, and that messes things up too. So there's a lot of stuff that you have never been told about your planet, okay? It's not in the school books. All right, now, yes, a cigar shape would be good. What you're looking at, the one way over there, that's actually a 17-kilometer long space transport. What did we say about the little blonde girl? That she got her friends to put together an organization to design and build a space transport and go out in the game. I designed that one right there. So we can get 60,000 people in that if you want to go. And we're going to go out to a utopian planet, and we're not going to worry about what's going on back here on Earth. Okay. Now, the one in the center there only shows that, yes, a tube like that's pointed would be good, but remember, that particular mission in the center breaks into 4 different parts because of its mission. Okay, now we're back over at TRW, and this is the launch program. They actually launch the astronauts to the moon, and so in there, I had sort of a contract for TRW, and they wanted me to come up with it's not a command center, it's just sort of a copy center of mission control down in Houston, okay? So that all the top executives at TRW could see and hear everything was happening as we're flying out to the moon. And then what happens when we got there. So that worked real good, and then they, of course, insisted that I go to work for TRW. And my job there is different too. I have 4 or 5 people that I work with, and I'm vice president to the, I'm advisor to the vice president, and I do, you have a problem in your laboratory, okay, we go there and then come up with a way to fix your problem. Now, TRW, like your 2 previous speakers here, particularly with Bob, TRW is unbelievably tight. You have no idea of what's going on in the next lab or any of the 6 sub-labs. You never know, okay? All of this is kept classified, and this makes it even hard to collectively have more people working on the important area. Okay, you couldn't see that till just now, but TRW is One Space Park, Redondo Beach. It's probably the best place for anybody to work. It's fantastic. Okay, I got to bring this next one up because they're yelling at me to get off here. All right, now we get to the moon. And you can't see it in this one, but way down on the left side where the arm lines come down, that's the Apollo astronauts looking back up at them. Now, some of you have heard on that first mission, you heard the astronauts say to the command center, "Oh my God, these vehicles are enormous. They're threatening, sir." Okay? This is, you can come up with your own version. Now, what you can't see here, of course, they're not parked there. They don't touch the ground. They're floating, okay? They're controlled. All the way around under every one of those are 9-foot reptilians in uniform with their hands on the hip giving you the finger. Okay, they're yelling. Now, okay, that was a while back. Now, this is like 2009. Okay, I'm doing another program down in San Diego, and there's probably 30 people in this one, and they're all around the conference table, and we're doing the stuff. And so I got to the part where I said, I'd like to try to get you to understand the different types of space vehicles we're dealing with, okay? So this lady down on the other side of the table, she says, "I got one." Okay. After the meeting's over, I run around the other side and one what? I got my UFO. Mine's big. So I, of course, talked to her, and I said, when we get together 2 weeks later, would you bring the picture? You're looking at the picture, okay? It's not a good picture. This normally would be brilliant. But you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 900-foot-long Draco tankers dropping 4 gases on Orange and San Diego County at 300 feet. Wow. So, this picture, yeah, it shows better here. These extraterrestrials are smart. Remember, nobody's driving that. The guy that's monitoring this gas drop, he's back up in the mothership. Reptilian cruiser, okay? All right, so what they do, they want to distribute the 4 gases out. You can see the color of the 4 gases on a close-up of this, all right? Wait a minute. You are all being gassed with 4 separate kinds of gas, okay? This is no joke. You think because the sky is blue, you don't see the contrails or whatever, and there's nobody up there when there's clouds. They're invisible. They figured it out. All right. The 4 windows for the gases are on the top. I said windows because when these guys leave the mothership, it's real cold out there. They get down here to ambient temperature. It's a whole different thing. They need to get the gases out and covered up. So they make windows in the top of it so that it will get down to the right temperature. All right? Now, the vehicles are serrated on the sides, serrated on the other side, almost serrated on top. You say, well, that's not too good of a spaceship. I took this photograph to my buddies over at Northrop in San Diego. Actually, they'd all died, but so I met the other fellows, and that this group took a whole different approach to how they can control us with gas. Okay? So TRW made a 3-view drawing of this. They made a 6-foot wooden model. They took it up to the low-speed wind tunnel back up in LA. They put it in there, and that was the best shape you could possibly come up with if that's what you want to do. Wow. Okay. I just want to thank all of you for coming. I really appreciate the time. And I think here it's best if we could ask more questions. Don't let them cover it up. We really need to know. Okay? Thank you.